And now pleased to be joined with head coach of Ohio State football. First day of practice here. Second year you've done the open practices to the public, which is something that's kind of been new, I think. But you were in the NFL for a long time where you had the fan involvement. What is starting off, Ryan? Good morning. Great to see you. And what has that been like for you with these open practices, and how does that kind of impact how you prepare and how the guys play?
Yeah. Good morning. Man, we got a beautiful morning. Hopefully the rain holds off for us. But either way, we're going to have a great day. Day one, as you know, it's just there's so much that comes with day one. It's like the first step in a long journey. I think nowadays, because we have spring practice, because we're able to do some things during the summer now, it feels almost like just the final step in the journey to the beginning of the season. But we had some long meetings last night, and this is a big month for us. One of our goals this season is to win the opener because of the type of game it is. Yeah. So this month is really important for us to have a great camp. Having the fans here is something that we decided to do, and we feel like it's great because the fans are able to come out and just see what it's like behind the scenes for a practice. It gives our guys a little bit of juice, and it gives us a little bit of that NFL feel. And I'm sure there's not a lot of I'm sure there are some, but not like Ohio State where they could do something like this, where we'll have 3 days where it'll be packed.
So, Ryan, I'm not going to insult your intelligence if I ask you who the starting quarterback is, because I know you're not going to announce it here on Morning Juice. Who's the backup quarterback?
Well,
never mind.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say is, they're all going to have to be ready to play.
Yeah.
I think last year when we had 5, it was hard to get everybody reps. This year we're going to be able to get all 3 guys reps. You'll see today that we'll be going on 2 fields for the first 3 days. And when you go on 2 fields, it's important to get these reps. During the summer, we're lifting, we're doing different things. Guys are throwing routes on air, but that's not real football, as you guys know. So we're able to get 48 plays in a 14 or 15 minute period based on 2 different fields. We're going to go 2 groups on each field, so you're going 4 groups, and now we're rolling. When that number for our roster gets hammered down all the way to 105, because we're actually able to go to 120 this year based on a couple rule changes down the stretch, we're able to do it. When we go to 105, it's going to be a lot harder to do this. So, but I'm excited about that because it's allowing our guys to get reps. They need reps. They need to actually physically do it, learn from it, make mistakes. I say it all the time, when you jump on a bike for the first time, you're going to fall off. You have to figure out how to do it. There's intelligence, real intelligence by actually doing it. Then there's this artificial intelligence, which is watching it, seeing it. I think about Good Will Hunting all the time, and when those guys are sitting down, and Robin Williams was like, well, you've never, sat by the bed and watched your wife go through something, and, you haven't lived life. You haven't actually done it. And he had all the intelligence in the world. He knew what he wanted to do. It's the same thing in football. I can go through it a million times in a meeting room, but you got to get out there on the field and do it. So that's why we try to get so many reps on these first few days. And by splitting up into 2 fields, it allows us to do that because these quarterbacks need to see all these different types of plays because every play is its own individual play. And then getting this experience and learning and growing because that's what camp's going to be all about.
Is it more important this year than maybe in the past just with the mass exodus of talented players who had played a heck of a lot of football here? You look at it now, you've got a couple of young quarterbacks, and not even just there. Offensive line-wise, you say fortunate or unfortunately, a lot of guys had to play last year, so those guys got some of those reps. But defensively, receivers are pretty set, young running backs. Just looking at that whole picture, more important maybe this year than in the past?
Yeah, and with the first game.
Yeah.
We got to be right going into this first game. So, I completely agree with what you're saying. And not that we drastically change things, on a year-to-year basis, but it's different, and it'll be different. This is a big camp for us, and we need these reps, and it's got to be a physical camp.
The leadership element, when you lose that many guys as well. I know Mick works on that a lot. You guys do a lot of forcing guys to kind of step up into those roles throughout the summer. How have you kind of seen that develop, and do you feel like everybody's in a good place after losing so many big voices as well?
Yeah, we had our champions meeting last night, and I've been very impressed with the leadership this summer. Mick would tell you that the leadership's been very, very strong. We use this thing, and Urban used to do it. It was called a 10-80-10 bell curve, where typically 10% of the organization's elite. 10% is falling behind, and then there's this 80% in the middle, and it looks like a mountain. It's a bell curve. And it's the job of the leaders and the coaches to push that bell curve, push that mountain towards the elite. I think we've done that. I think a lot of guys have made strides that way, but like we need to continue to grow as the season goes on with some of those guys, especially some of the younger guys stepping up into these roles. But I will say I think the leadership's been stronger. You're hearing guys speak up, and that's a big part of any leadership. When you played, it was important, but now more than ever because guys just aren't as verbal as they used to be, maybe because of the way that things are and the way the kids.
Because you live in the machines,
you live in the phones, man. But guys are doing it. They're stepping up. They're speaking out. They're having a voice, and it's okay being uncomfortable. Like challenging your teammates is just showing them that you love them, and that you'd rather challenge them now and be uncomfortable in this moment than have the regret down the road of failing. And so those are all the things that happen during the summer that nobody sees.
Ryan Day joins us here on Morning Juice. I know that you made the statement the other day, we're not defending national champs. No one's coming to take it away from us. That trophy's staying where it is, and you're looking forward on all this. But I'm curious, does it feel differently this year after having success last year? Is there any difference in how you prepared or how it felt for you? Do you feel any different than you normally do in the offseason?
No, I've shared this before. When you listen to Scotty Scheffler talk before the British Open about after you win the national championship, kind of life goes on, and that's true. And I've said this before, winning at Ohio State is what the expectation is. You're expected to win every game. You're expected to win championships. And if they don't, they're going to find new coaches. That's just how it goes. They're going to find new players. And that's what we signed up for when we came to Ohio State. That expectation's been set for a long, long time. But winning championships, winning games just allows you to continue to do what you love, and that's having an impact on people. And that's what coaching's all about. That's what life's all about. And life is all about being in the moment and enjoying the journey along the way, being present. Like today is all about day one. Not worried about last year, not worried about this year, what's coming with that. It's just being right here. And the book that we read this summer was Chop Wood, Carry Water, which is really what that's all about, is being here right now. And so if you're chopping wood, like you're not distracted with anything else, you're just chopping wood in that moment. And so that's what we're going to do. That being said, we also last night as a team went through the goals for the season. We looked at the schedule and what comes with that, and open up with Texas. You have a couple of non-conference games. You have a bye week, and then you go on a little bit of a gauntlet. You go to Washington, and you come back and play Minnesota, and then you go to Illinois, and then you go to Wisconsin. Bye week, Penn State, and then you kind of making sure that they know what we're up against. What does the season look like? We talk about the playoffs. We talk about getting to Indianapolis. All those things. But once that gets pushed aside, it comes back to right now. Having a great meeting this morning, having a great day. But make no mistake about it, we want to be the first team in Ohio State history to win back-to-back national championships, and we're not afraid to say that. I mean, that's the goal, and our guys are locked in on that. But we can't get too focused on that. We got this monster game starting the season.
So as you talked a little bit, there's talent and then there's experience, and trying to balance those two things is always key. You obviously want a lot of talent on the field, but experience is big. And you look at some of the guys that you had lost last year that were just great leaders, and maybe. I would talk to Cody and Lathan about this, and I told him, I said, what makes you guys great is not maybe your physical assets as much as it is your mental aptitude and experience and everything that came around the game. And so with that, the loss of a lot of guys, is this team more talented than maybe last year's team?
I know. I don't think I can say that. I think both teams were talented. But like you said, the experience of playing certainly makes a difference. And so what we say all the time is, God has given us talent. What is talent? Talent is God-given. Certainly we have a lot of talent. I think when you look back on, every team in the last 50 years at Ohio State, there's been talent.
Yeah.
It's our job to develop discipline and skill. Discipline is everything God didn't give you. Skill is what you need to play your position. And so when you combine really talented guys who have built this discipline in their life and learn how to play the position at a high level, that's when you have a chance to really do something special. So you've heard people say you control what you can control. That's what discipline's all about. What you put in your body, your focus, your effort, how hard you go, your ability to stay in the moment. When we're in week 3 and we're in a walkthrough late at night, like how much are you actually in that moment, or how much are you distracted about what's going on behind you? Those are all the things that are going to matter, because every inch matters when you're playing an opening game like this. Every inch matters when you're trying to chase a national championship, because everybody else in the country is trying to do the same thing. There are other talented teams out there. What's going to separate us when we go in these matchup games where we don't have a talent advantage? And that's what we try to focus on all the time. It's one thing if we have a talent advantage against somebody. We should win those games. But the question is, when talent's equated, what is going to separate Ohio State? And to me, it has to be our discipline and skill.
So you mentioned a little bit looking at the season and kind of breaking it down into subsections a little bit, especially with the prospects of a playoff run afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
That's a little bit kind of an NFL mindset, where you in the 16-game model you always kind of quarter it and like, hey, can we go 3-1 in every stretch? Is there a little bit of that permeating into this now, just given with the longevity of the season?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, like you said, you can't just. It's people say, well, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Not really. It's a series of sprints along the way. Like you don't play the game of football that way. In a marathon, you got to go. But it's also good to understand that there are ebbs and flows of the season, and recognizing like, okay, here's a run we got to go on. Here's a bye week. Here's a run we got to go on. Here's a bye week. Here's to the end of the season. All right, here's the postseason window. And I think it's easy for guys to focus on that and not get too caught up in just another game or another practice. So we try to do that for them. All that being said, we got to be in the moment. We got to do a great job, and then building it from there. But to your point, yeah, I mean when you look at last year, we had to make some adjustments along the way. It's not just the same way all the way through. And in the past, when there was only 12 games and then you played a national championship, it was very, very different than it is now. And if you stub your toe in this playoff system, you can get back up off the floor and you can roll and create some momentum with yourself, which is very similar to the NFL. So to your point, I think there's some similarities there.
Ryan, it's a very vivid, I think, in Buckeyes fans' minds, the image of you throwing the headset up in the air after that game. And you went on your talk show tour after that and did a bunch of shows. I know you wouldn't do it, but I really wanted to go out there like Ric Flair, like with a big robe and cocky and do all that. I know you wouldn't do it, but was there ever a moment, though, where you felt like that?
No. It's just everybody's their own personality, and I see people in all different, walks of life looking to chase, things like this, and everyone, has to be themselves, and that's one of the things that, I was told a long time ago, just be yourself, and don't try to be somebody else. To me, when you go through that, you're just the joy you feel because of the expectation here, because of how many people love Ohio State football. When you win, you feel joy for everybody because how many people have come up to me and just said, hey, like, thank you for what you've done. Thank you for the joy. I lost my grandfather. He was able to see the national championship. I brought my kids to Atlanta. I brought my kids to L.A. And just hearing the stories of how it, brings generations together, but then also the joy of the players. And ultimately, that's what it is. It's not about me. It's not about anything like that. But along the way, you just, you fight through all the different things that come with it, and then you come out the back end. I will say that, after you win one, you get a certain level of trust and credibility moving forward because, hey, guys, if we follow this plan, this works. And not that there ever wasn't any buy-in, but now there's more buy-in, which certainly helps with the team.
So we've had you here for a long time, Ron. We appreciate it. I'm gonna get you out on this. And you talked about he's trying to turn you into Ric Flair. One of the images that I remember after the game is, you, Nina, and your three children, kind of embracing, understanding that it's, as much as it is success for you, it's success for your family because they live this, they breathe it, they experience the same way. It's a dog on a leash. I mean, you feel all of the energy going back and forth. Having, kids now, and especially RJ, who will be in his junior year, I believe, that are getting to this age, interacting with the players, interacting with your own family, what you're able to glean from both. Has that made you a better coach and a better father? Just the cross section of those two events.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair to say that my kids have been raised. Certainly RJ's been raised in an Ohio State locker room, and that's big. I think when I look at him and where he's at with his journey in faith and where he is in football, like a huge part of that was that locker room and the guys that had an impact on him on a daily basis. I remember Dwayne Haskins bringing him to a high school football game when he was real young, and he'll tell you some of those stories. But yeah, I mean, it's when you have a son go through that. Then you go through the recruiting process. It kind of brings some light to you as a coach. Like every decision that you make should be, how would I want my son treated? Now, you always knew that, but when you go through it, it just brings more light to it. But to your point, yeah, I mean, it's our family's job to make sure that we're holding up our end of the bargain here because of how important Ohio State football is. So we're all into this thing. And so, when we succeed as a family. When we fail as a family. I mean, that's just the way we look at it. And, to be the first family that's kind of had to go through it with kids, who are in elementary school, middle school, and now high school, is its own experience, and it's been great. There's been challenges along the way, but I wouldn't want it any other way, because the way that they've grown up, the people they've seen, the experiences they've had, have made them who they are today. And not exactly how I grew up, but but it's a great challenge every day. And so I'm excited to see how his junior year goes. Excited for the girls. My daughter heads into her freshman year, and
I'm sure excited for dealing with them. I mean, that's having a freshman daughter myself, Ryan. That is
a lot of fun.
Yes,
a lot of fun. Yes.
Well, you can yell at your son. That's the difference.
Right.
I always say you can always overcorrect
Yep.
hard on your boys. The girls is a whole nother. I mean, that's thread and needle from 10 yards away.
Yeah. My wife Nina can yell at them. I can't. I got to be smart about how I handle that one.
You got to admit, Bobby, it would have been cool if he walked out in a Ric Flair robe, doing the strut, just one time. I think it would have been a great look. All right, I'll stop it.
Not going to happen.
Next year.
Actually, I apologize. One more.
Yeah.
Being this, I mean, I noticed we've got a little gray in the beard. There's been talk a lot about the dyeing of the beard. I've been convinced. Tell people head coaches don't have enough time to self-groom like that. I mean, that's just the wearing now of the
I'm lucky enough to have time to shave, but it's coming. It's coming. I always wanted, my uncle, who kind of had the same. He had salt and pepper hair when he was like 25 years old, and so I always kind of thought that would be the case. It hasn't. It's been hanging on there, but yeah, you can start to see it coming through in the beard. And actually, there was a young kid who said that his parents came up and said, showed a picture. And he said, my son dressed up for you at Halloween. They showed the picture. They said, yeah, we use these different things or whatever. And the little kid says, well, he looked up at me and he says, well, now I'm going to have to put some grays in there.
Oh.
That's what he said. It's cute.
All you got to
Cross
do
off the
is
list.
look at those pictures outside. And they had the O2 team for a long time with Tress. And
Yeah.
that was my freshman year. I'd come back towards the end of his career. I said, his job is like being the president. I mean, you
Oh my
come in
gosh.
as a young man and you leave weathered in age just from the stress.
Yeah, a couple of recruits had come in, and the mother saw a picture of me like the first year.
Yeah.
And then saw me now, and it looks like I'm an old sailor who's been at sea for about 7 years.
Well, thanks for the time, Ryan. We appreciate it. I know you got kind of a busy day today, right? A little bit going on for you today.
Yeah,
going
exciting
forward.
day, good day.
So we thank you for stopping by, and the people in the chat that are watching us on YouTube. Nothing but great things to say about Day and the season last year, and we're all looking forward to this year. Thanks
Sounds
for the
good.
time.
You got it, guys.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep, you got it.
That was Ryan Day, head coach of your Ohio State Buckeyes.